Hi everyone! Today is a bit of a different video from my usual speed paints and art chats. You're currently watching me design a spread in Adobe InDesign CS6 for my bullet journal, which is created in an app called Noteshelf, which is on my iPad, which is not made of paper. That's right, I keep a digital bullet journal. I love the idea of bullet journals. I love looking at other people's spreads, the various unique and creative ways they design the weeks and the days to create something beautiful, every page handwritten and versatile to their own needs. But I can't do that. I tried. I even tried the 3-ring mini binder approach because I thought a more modular setup might work for me, but it didn't because I'm just too stupidly particular. Even designing my spreads on a computer and printing them, I ended up wasting paper and ink reprinting spreads because something would be a couple millimeters off. I'm fickle, and I rely on technology way too much, which, yes, I know is an issue in the advent of the zombie apocalypse, which, with the way the world is going, should happen any time now. But this winter, laid off for the season from my day job, I found myself losing track of my goals and my ambitions for all my time off. January felt like a total loss. Seasonal affective disorder wasn't helping either, so I knew I needed a planner, and I knew I needed one that worked with me and the way I work. I started looking into digital journals for the iPad. I thought there had to be a cute app for that, right? But there weren't really too many apps that looked appealing to me. I wanted something customizable, but with all the features I needed. It was in this search, I think on Pinterest actually, that I discovered digital bullet journals. It would be something I could design from the ground up, similar to a real bullet journal, but that I could then use digitally in an app. Or I could write in it by hand using my Apple Pencil, but I knew I probably wouldn't do that too much. Digital bullet journals work very similarly to a PDF markup app. In fact, a lot of the apps are basically just that. When looking into digital journals, a few apps were mentioned. GoodNotes was one which I did in fact try, but I found it didn't feel the way I wanted my bullet journal to feel. I know that's vague and weird, but I am strangely particular about the apps I use. It didn't look how I wanted it to look, and it only offered maybe 7 or 8 fonts, possibly less. I can't actually remember. Either way, for someone who used to be a graphic designer and who has hundreds of fonts on her computer, less than a dozen fonts was not going to do. And then I discovered Noteshelf. It was touted as having fantastic handwriting capabilities, which I liked because my handwriting did not look the best in GoodNotes. This is not to bash GoodNotes, by the way. It is a fine program that does what it says on the tin. It just didn't suit my wants or needs. The setup of a digital bullet journal is different than a regular one in that you aren't really creating the layout on the device the bujo will be on. In my case, I create all my layouts and covers using Photoshop and InDesign. You could use other programs as well. Word would probably be my suggestion since it works great with tables and you can save files as PDFs in the newer versions. OpenOffice is basically a free version of Word. I mean, not the same company, obviously, but... Or you could use other people's printables, of which there are tons, some free, some not so much. I took screenshots of the Noteshelf screen to figure out the exact dimensions I needed for my files, since iPads vary in resolution from version to version. I used my favorite fonts, and I created something minimalist but clean, which is what my handwritten bullet journal looked like too, really. That's the aesthetic I really like. Let's get into how I actually set up my bullet journal system for Noteshelf. When you go into the app, it will usually reopen whatever page you last had open, which is very handy for bullet journals. In my case, I last exited the program in my main group of notebooks. As you can see, I create notebooks for each month as I go, since I have a tendency to change my spreads constantly from month to month. I did consider having just one big notebook for my entire year, but I prefer it separated like this. In the options, you've got different color schemes to choose from. Under Cloud and Backup is where you can set up how you would like your notebook backed up. In my case, I use both iCloud and Dropbox. Stylus is, of course, the stylus of your choice. If you have one, if you don't, the program is still fully functional without one. Notebook options are currently grayed out as you need to be within an actual notebook to change these. And then the rest of the options are the welcome tour and support and all those kind of links. To create a notebook for March, I'm going to hit the plus sign and then New Notebook. From here, I can choose a cover, or I can use my own custom cover, which I already have installed. You can also choose a paper for your notebook, and there are plenty to download as well under free downloads, but I'm going to use a custom paper, and then I'm going to enter my title. From here, you also want to go under Options and make sure you have Auto Backup turned on, and then you can go back and create your notebook. Once you're in the notebook, you can swipe to add a new page automatically unless there's already pages to swipe to. The new page will have the same paper as the last, but you can change this by going into your options again. Under Notebook Options, which is no longer grayed out, you'll find Change Page Template. I have a bunch of spreads installed already, but I will delete and reinstall my month template so you can see how that works. So, like with many things on the iPad, if you press and hold, little X's will pop up that allow you to delete pages. So delete. To install, you click this Add Image icon, which is this weird gray one up in sort of like the top here. I store all of my PDFs for my spreads in Dropbox. This is where being able to save as a PDF comes in handy when you're trying to choose what program you want to actually create your spreads in. So you go into Dropbox or whatever you use, parent folder, templates, and then, yeah, so I've got March here. It will download, and then I can change the name. Hit OK. From here, I'm just going to add a few more spreads. The first spread I add is a habit tracker for the month. Here, I keep track of my spending. I'm currently laid off, so I'm very much in no spend mode, and keeping track of when I do spend keeps me accountable for what I do. I use a color-coded method using the highlighter tool, so to fill in my spread, I just use little dots in whatever color it represents. I also keep track of a number of art-related things, and I also fill in goals for my personal life, my art, and my financial situation, just so I'm keeping on track throughout the whole month. The next page is a monthly tracker for YouTube, where I keep a tally of my subs as well as my goals and to-dos related to my YouTube channel for the month. I don't look at my YouTube as being all about the numbers. I just really enjoy creating content and videos and making art every week. It just is kind of fun to track the subs though, especially because I'm such a little channel right now. This last page is my weekly spread. The boxes for Sunday and Monday are smaller because I generally don't do as much those days. I might work on art, but if I'm working my day job, I usually have those days off. In the purple box, I will use the text tool to put in the current date range for that week. So for the first week in March, it technically starts on February 25th. You can see I've been practicing because it auto-filled that in. And then it ends on March 3rd. Thanks, autofill. You're making this so much easier. No, stop. Frig. Okay. So this font is not the font I want to use, so I'm going to select all and go into my font settings. I use Avenir Next. And go back. You can set a default font for your notebook, so I'm going to do that now. So I'm probably going to use this font again. And then in this case, I'm going to make this even bigger. All the tapping is my Apple Pencil. I don't know why I'm using my pencil for this, because if anything, it just kind of makes things more difficult. Okay. And this is not perfectly centered, but we'll pretend. And then, so I also use the text tool in the individual boxes for each day. And the cool thing with Noteshelf is that it has a checkbox function. So for Friday, which is my upload video day, I'm just going to put that in now. You can go under the bullet function. It also has different bullets. But if you hit the checkbox and then go back to your keyboard, so this is the day I upload a video. And then you can resize and move these around however you would like. Just like that. And then these little boxes that I have next to the days, I actually put in what the date is so that I can keep track of that. So I just write these in, so. And that's an example of that. So I will normally do my week spreads from week to week since I do change them very frequently. And now that all the pages are in, we can tag them. So in this top right corner, you click the icon that looks like a whole bunch of rectangles layered on each other, and you open this pages area. So you would hit edit, and then select whatever page you want to put a tag on, and hit the little tag icon, which is the one to the far left. And so this is my monthly spread, so I'm just going to put in, I guess just month is fine. And you would hit enter after you press that in, and you can go back. Put another tag on here, so this is my habit tracker. And go back. My YouTube tracker, so I guess I'll just put that under YouTube. Back. And then my weekly. And hit done when you're done. So the cool thing about this is that it sort of bookmarks everything. So then once you go under your tag icon here, if you hit month, then it just shows your monthly spread. If you hit habit tracker, then it just shows your habit tracker. So that is pretty cool there. And that's a good way to keep everything organized and bookmarked. So that's about it for this video, which is already getting super long. Would you keep a digital bullet journal? Do you currently bullet journal? If you have any questions or want to talk bullet journals with me, feel free to leave a comment down below. If you like this video, please give it a like and please subscribe. I may do more bullet journal videos in the future so you can see my spreads evolve, so let me know if you're interested in that. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next Friday for another video. Bye!